So these are all the different movements found within the joints that we've got. You've got flexion and extension. Now, flexion is where we reduce the joint angle. So in the elbow and the knee, we can reduce the angle at that particular joint, and that would be flexion. So if you were to flex your bicep, you are in fact flexing at the elbow joint. Whereas extension would be opening up that joint angle, so straightening the arm or straightening the leg. You've also got hip flexion. So if you think of your hip joint, if you were to close the angle down around that hip joint there, you'll see that we will need certain muscles in order to contract there to create that shorter angle. And then you've obviously got hip extension, which would then be straightening the leg out around that hip area. If we were to keep this leg going all the way back, so if you were going to swing the leg back just before you kick a ball, then that is known as hyperextension. Shoulder flexion and extension, very similar, but this time around the shoulder joint. So bringing the shoulder forwards will be flexion, bringing it back is extension. Horizontal flexion, so if the arm is in the horizontal plane, as you can see here, so holding the arm out straight to the side, if you're then going to bring the shoulder round, this is where we might look at it being adduction. So what we want to concentrate here is the elbow, so horizontal flexion or extension at the elbow, but along the horizontal plane or the transverse plane. Lateral flexion, very simple, along the vertebrae moving side to side. Okay. Hyperextension, we've covered that in the hip, but if we were to look at it in the spine, it's where we start leaning back and just going out and a bit further away than our normal range of movement. It can happen in the neck as well, so bending the neck back. Dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, toes up, toes down. So dorsiflexion is bringing the toes up towards the kneecap, whereas plantar flexion is pointing. So think of the letter P there, pointing is plantar flexion. Okay, and this might be using when you're running, stepping on your toes to land and to take off, you'll use those. Abduction, adduction, you've got to imagine your midline right down the middle of your body. So any bone that is bringing, any joint that's bringing a bone towards the midline is adduction. Abduction is the opposite, and that is away from the body, so it's being abducted away from the midline. It's usually a side movement, whereas forwards and backwards is known as flexion and extension, so it's more of a side movement. Okay, horizontal abduction and adduction. So if we take the shoulder here, looking at horizontal, and it's literally bringing it forward. As we said, flexion is bringing a joint forward. Now this might be used in something like tennis, in a shot, something like that. Okay. Rotation, very easy. Okay, twisting types of movements. So shaking the head from side to side, twisting the spine. You can also twist at the shoulder. Alright, bringing your elbow, if your elbow is pointing down, to bring your elbow to pointing up, that would be rotating the humerus. Circumduction is drawing big circles, hence the circ. Alright, so circumduction is for circles. You can do it at most, you can do it all the ball and socket joints. Alright, you can also do it in the fingers and the thumbs. You can draw small circles like that. A cricketer, when doing like a spin bowl, might use that action. Same with this one really for a cricketer, pronation, supination. This one would be easy to remember if you think of how you would hold a bowl of soup. So if you hold a bowl of soup with one hand, it would be palm facing up. Pronation would be facing down. So we've covered prone and supine, and it is within these words as well. So prone and supine, it's there. So prone is face down, supine is face up. Nearly there. Inversion and eversion is the difference between rolling your ankle in and rolling your ankle out. So inversion is to roll your ankle in towards the midline, whereas eversion pushes it out. Most people who sprain their ankle, they are inverting their ankle joint. Alright, and that's how they will do it. So dribbling a football, running or changing direction would use those two actions. Into the shoulders, we've got elevation, which is shrugging, bringing the shoulders right up towards the ears, and depression, which lowers the shoulders down, further down, which isn't a common movement, but is quite important for posture.